Right. Okay. Okay. Good on this side. Yes. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Question Time with the Mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham. Now, my name is Amy Welch, and I have been a reporter at Granada Reports for a long, long time. And I now work for ITV National News, covering the north of England. But I was just saying to Andy that normally when I speak, it's just a camera and there aren't any actual people. So please be kind to me tonight. I'm not used to there being so many faces. So it's great to have you all here. We've got some special guests with us tonight. We've got Shelley Kipling from Oldham Council, Aruj Shah, the Deputy Mayor, Kate Green, Deputy Chief Constable from Greater Manchester Police, Terry Woods, the Assistant Chief Fire Officer, Barry Moore, and Danny Vaughan from Transport for Greater Manchester. Now, this is the chance for you guys to really ask Andy about things that matter to you. Now, there's obviously you in the room. There are also lots of people watching at home, and this event is being live streamed on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. And we just want to get through as many of those issues, as many of those questions as we can tonight. There's quite a few different topics, so I'll just take you through those. There's police and crime, planning and housing, children and young people, health and well-being, transport, and the environment. Now, in the run-up to this, I was sent a huge list of questions. There were so many fantastic questions from all of you, but I had to just whittle it down and narrow it down to just a few. So I have picked those questions. Andy does not know what those questions are, so he has no idea what he's going to be asked. And I will either take those questions from members of the audience who are here, or I will ask those questions myself. After I've asked those questions, there will be the chance for anybody in the audience to ask a follow-up question. If there's just because you've not had your question picked does not by any means mean that you will not have the chance to direct your question at Andy tonight. So just politely put your hand up. We've got a couple of different people who will try and get microphones to you. I know you've already had a little bit of housekeeping, but try to just be, courteous and polite, and, not to sort of speak over each other, because, we really just want to get around the room and get to as many of you as possible. Anybody that's watching this from the comfort of their living rooms, the hashtag is AskAndyGM. That's how you ask Andy the questions that you want to. I will occasionally look down. That is not because I'm being rude, but this tablet is where I will see those questions coming in from the people that are watching it on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. So yeah, I think we're good to go. So let's just get started. So the first question is regarding police and crime, and it comes from Matthew Bassett. Now, I'm not sure if Matthew is actually here. I'm just going to quickly just double check. So I am still going to ask his question because it was picked, and I think it is a really good question. I think it's a really important issue that we all really care about. So Matthew says, how do you simultaneously balance the need for better community relations and public confidence in Greater Manchester Police with the need for a more robust deterrent against the rising levels of serious crime in Greater Manchester? Now, he makes the point that these could be seen as conflicting objectives, and, how do we achieve this at the same time? Low-level crime, antisocial behaviour, and then also the strategy that's needed to commit to those falling standards of public behaviour. So take it away, Andy.
Yeah, well, it is a good question, isn't it? But I'm going to go back to when I interviewed the Chief Constable for his position, because I have always believed in the broken window theory of policing. So I'm sure many people know what that is, but for those who don't, the idea that if you let small things go, in the end you create the conditions for much worse things to happen. And it kind of fallen out of fashion, but I was in the Home Office years ago myself as a minister, and I always was kind of taken with it. When I was the MP for Lee, I kind of hated the idea that you just have a kind of sense of anything can go in a community and it doesn't really get picked up. I just always felt that to be wrong, and he really kind of surprised me but pleased me when he said, no, I do believe in it. You've got to kind of have a grip on the basics at a neighbourhood level, and he made a commitment to rebuild neighbourhood policing in Greater Manchester. That was one of the big statements he made. And it's interesting, actually, the government announced, was it late last week or this, that there would be a named contactable officer in all wards. Well, we announced that we implemented that 18 months ago here because Stephen Watson and Terry Woods, who's here today, have led a huge change across Greater Manchester. I think I'm right in saying now every ward in Greater Manchester, I think the city centre or the parts of the city were the last to be completed have, if you go on, you can find your neighbourhood teams. They're named and they are contactable. So that infrastructure, I don't see a conflict between that and then the most serious stuff. And to kind of really show why we live this, one of the big initiatives that the Chief has brought through is something called Operation Vulcan. This was a long and dedicated operation based on Cheetham Hill, where people, will have said, anyone who's lived in Greater Manchester over the years would say, oh, there's stuff happening there and it isn't being addressed. Well, credit to the Chief and the Deputy Chief, they came in and launched Operation Vulcan. And I remember being in a meeting when they were launching it, saying, we're going to go after everything here, we're going to rip things out by its roots. And, that bloke who's fishing in the Irwell every Tuesday afternoon better have a rod license, because we're going to find any reason to get after people who are whichever power, whichever agency. And they've done it. If you look at the change in Cheetham Hill and the amount of counterfeit goods seized and, the premises closed, they have done it. And we want to take that approach out with the support of the Deputy Mayor, who obviously day to day works with the Chief and the Deputy Chief. We want to take that out. So this is our approach. This is what we want. We want strong, proactive policing in Greater Manchester. I've never shied away from that, never will shy away from that. And it starts in neighbourhoods. If you've got the strong teams there, the intelligence they pick up, can lead to much bigger things. And one last example, I've always said, things like driving without insurance, for instance, if you go and pick up that type of offence in communities, often you can find that those vehicles are being used for much more serious things. And I know it's the Deputy Chief's philosophy, it's the Chief's. Kate and I have that same approach. And I personally would say, and I'm open to what anyone else in the audience wants to say, I think Greater Manchester Police finally is the police force, or becoming the police force, I should say, maybe, that I always wanted to see in Greater Manchester. For too long, for years really, stuff was just let go. 101 would just ring out when you tried to get through to somebody. No one would say things are perfect, but if you look at the stats now, they've got a grip on things, and actually neighbourhood crime is, although perceptions might be difficult, neighbourhood crime is actually falling rather than rising.
But I guess that's the key question, isn't it? Have they really got a grip on things? And, I don't know how you feel in the audience, but I don't know if anyone has any follow-up questions as to whether you feel that when you try to get hold of your local police officer, you actually can do that and they're actually going to be there. But does anybody have any follow-up questions for Andy regarding any issues regarding police and crime? It doesn't have to just specifically be about antisocial behaviour. Can we just get to this lady here? Hi.
Hi, Mr. Burnham.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
Nice to see you. We're having the police called on us by a company called IX Wireless constantly. So their resources are being used to stop because we're